Welcome to Overdrive AF, the official podcast of Overdrive Fitness. My name is Teddy Gurzon, and I'm joined by Gina Marie Gurzon.
Hello.
What's up? Welcome to podcast episode 170 of the Overdrive AF show. Last episode we spoke about 3 ways to build muscle, which was last week actually. But today what we would like to get into is a very popular topic that we always get questions asked about, and that is in regards to creatine. Right?
Specifically creatine monohydrate.
Yeah, and creatine monohydrate, but specifically today what we want to talk about was the cognitive benefits of creatine monohydrate, or creatine monohydrate and its cognitive benefits, right? So obviously there's a lot that people say about creatine. A lot of it is actually wrong. Should we do a brief history real quick before we get into it?
Yes.
All right, so creatine can be traced back to the mid 1800s. It was actually first discovered in 1832, right? It became very popular recreationally after the 92 Olympics. That was the Summer Olympics in Barcelona. For all you Americans out there, pretty much everyone that watches this show, it's that was the year of the Dream Team, right? So that was a very famous Olympic Games for American sports in general. Well, I mean, they did put the world on notice. Let's put it that way, right? So that team did dominate. But what pops out to me mostly about that specific Olympics and the emergence of creatine usage throughout the entire world recreationally was that was the first Olympics post the Ben Johnson era, right? So Ben Johnson, the famous sprinter from Canada, I almost said Canadian, from Canada, who was coached by Charlie Francis, who's an amazing fucking strength and conditioning sports performance mind. That
anybody that's in that world knows his name.
Yes, and unfortunately, as soon as you hear Ben Johnson, everyone associates steroid use, and same with Charlie Francis, and that drives me crazy, and I don't mean to go off into a tangent about that, but as they kept testing urine samples
and blood samples.
Yeah, but prior to those 1988 Olympics and even 84, the test samples got dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, meaning that it wasn't just Canadian athletes that were on it. There were plenty of Americans that were using too, right? They just weren't getting popped. And also, in Ben Johnson's defense, he tested positive for decadurabolin, which was not a steroid that he took, which was obvious because his muscle mass, right? He was jacked for a sprinter, yes, but he wasn't a linebacker, right? And
or a weightlifter.
Yeah. So that, if you know anything about anabolics and sports performance, and especially in the track and field genre, right, era category, you know that decadurabolin is not used for performance enhancing purposes in that field, right? So it's just fucking horseshit. But I digress, right? So basically, creatine has been around for a fucking long time. Or specifically creatine monohydrate. It is the most tested and proven supplement and the most bang for your buck that you can get compared to anything you would see out there.
Even in this day and age where we have the whole COVID bullshit and supply chain issues and whatnot, finding where your creatine monohydrate is coming from too is a big deal.
Yeah.
Stay away from China. Anything outside of China.
China.
So yes, we're telling you to purchase creatine monohydrate. Yes, you should be taking it.
The German one's pretty solid.
From Germany, they do have, yes.
And the main purpose of creatine, why you would take it, right? What is its two biggest benefits? It's the production of energy, right? Especially in
ATP.
Short, high-intensity bouts, anything from 4 to 15 seconds long, and recovery, right? So it allows you to not only produce energy faster, and before we get real specific about it, but it allows you to recover faster, so you can then put out that energy even more, hence power output.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And at the end of the day too, I think there was this huge debate on water weight gain for a while, creatine monohydrate, and oh my God, I'm gonna get bulky, I'm gonna start holding on to water. And actually that's a really good thing, and being that the majority of the population is already dehydrated, but it holds water, it hydrates you within the muscle cell. And being that we're already, the human body is 70% or more water, at least 70% water, and the muscle system, the muscle cells, the muscles themselves are already at least 70% water. When we are dehydrated, we do feel funky in more than one way, in many ways actually. When the muscles are hydrated, we look fuller. And that's why also too, we love to eat our carbs, because hydration of the tissue is a very beneficial thing. We tend to function better as a whole. Our brain and our central nervous system tends to function better as a whole. And if your brain and your central nervous system are already working well, your muscle system, which is being charged by the brain and central nervous system, is working much more optimally. Wouldn't you say so?
Absolutely.
Okay, so already there, it's check it off the list. You need it. You get up in the morning. Doesn't matter when you take your creatine. You need to take your creatine monohydrate. It's important, especially on your training days, especially on your lifting days, your running days, endurance, strength sports. Doesn't matter. We should be taking it. But now what they're finding too is these cognitive benefits. I mean, especially neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia and things like that. I think what they're noticing is, again, bringing it back to hydrating the cells, hydrating the tissue, hydrating the brain. So not just muscle system, skeletal system benefits, but actually benefits for the brain, and really charging your body and filling your body with creatine, the brain specifically, because of the cognitive benefits. And I think what they're noticing too, and we always talk about this, is because creatine kind of pulls water into the cell, and pulls water into the cells specifically, so brain cells, muscle cells, it's important. Electrolytes come along with it. Yes. And because the electrolyte system, it's such a delicate system within the body, when we are dehydrated, we're not getting our creatine, we're not drinking water, we're not eating animal protein, we're not eating our fruits and vegetables, it kind of robs us of getting those precious electrolytes within those systems, and pulling those electrolytes in. And that delicate system can really throw off the balance of those firing rates of the neurons, the nerve cells. Talking about degenerative diseases like, brain cell death, breakdown, things like that. It's extremely neuroprotective in that respect. And I would not only say neuroprotective in preventing those degenerative issues within the brain, but cognitive benefits even in, and if we kind of sidebar for a second, like talk about sports performance, we bring that back in, like what about traumatic brain injuries, like concussion, post-concussion, anything that's traumatic in general, stress related, it tends to kind of liven back up the brain cells and bring back to life, in a sense, where specific areas of the brain in the frontal portion of the brain behind the forehead, anything that has to do with getting tasks done, doing our work, our day-to-day activities, our memory, our personality, things like that we have to make, this like decision making. And as an athlete, we have to make decisions very, very quickly on the field, on the mat, on the court, whatever. We have to be able to react really, really fast. And again, as we get older, if we're not supplementing properly and we're not practicing the tasks that can help to not only reignite, but keep those at a higher level so that we're still performing and we can move and we can You know, even like reaction time through eyes and ears and everything else, hand-eye coordination, all of that tends to diminish. They're noticing that in all these different studies too. Even like headaches, dizziness, fatigue, like these are all things that can create this fogginess, this this cognitive diminishing, like the brain activation. It's just kind of like daily, kind of just brain activities, like, and all of this can lead to these kind of almost neurodegenerative issues. You know, did you want to? I mean, should we talk about just even creatine being this readily available fuel for the brain?
Yeah.
Right, and even everything from children all the way up to adulthood. Children are benefiting from even creatine supplementation too. So there's been studies too, just that cognitive benefits even in children. You know, what about productivity within the school setting and their learning? You know, when we're always learning, and even as adults, it's encouraged to read books, take a class, you know, get out, learn something or do something that you've never done before, just to kind of keep everything at its heightened state, to keep everything at that top end state. It's important to stay ready, to stay reactive, to stay like that sponge, always soaking up and absorbing information, whatever type of information that is. What else, Teddy? Oh,
I mean, that all just goes back to the point that you get so much bang for your buck.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's so many benefits, huge benefits, for such a cheap supplement.
And I think I know there's some back and forth with, like, should there be a loading phase or should there be just everyday maintenance? And I think issues with that could be with some people. When we load creatine, so sometimes they'll say, like, I don't know, up to 30 grams, like the first week to 4 weeks or something, to saturate the muscle tissue and the tissue itself. There could be some gastric distress. I know there's been people who have reported that. I don't know if you want that. I think it's just better. I feel like we've always just had people on from day to day, whether you're in a training day or not. Remember, this is daily supplementation. I think that 3 to 5 grams per day is very beneficial, and that's what the studies show. And even dependent upon our individual body weight, it could go up to even 10 grams, and they're even showing benefits for females, especially leading into menopause and beyond, up to 10 grams per day if we're looking at all these cognitive benefits because of the hormonal changes and whatever. We want our brain to function optimally. We want that, and then brain, and that central nervous system, right? Central nervous system is always working into the muscular system or musculoskeletal system. Okay, so everything has to work together. We want those that prime real estate to be functioning optimally so that the rest of our body can function optimally. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to, really keeping yourself hydrated, right? We're always proponents of getting protein in too. So obviously creatine monohydrate is found in animal protein.
Yes.
So animal protein, like we talk about, is like, what could we list as animal protein?
What, like chicken, beef, salmon, fish?
Yup.
I don't know what other animals.
You love your eggs. Eggs.
Oh, hell yeah.
Any dairy, any type of dairy. So animal products like that. And we would definitely also suggest, and then even in the literature and in the research, they suggest that people who are more vegetarian-based or plant-based eaters, where, maybe the majority of your calories are coming from fruits and vegetables, which, again, we're huge proponents of. We need those micronutrients. That's nature's medicine cabinet. We absolutely not only suggest, but lovingly push those wonderful types of foods. That's what keeps you healthy as well, keeps your gut healthy too. Those those people should absolutely be supplementing with creatine monohydrate, not only for their neuroprotective benefits, but everything else that goes along with that, because you're not getting them in an appropriate amount from just fruits and vegetables. It falls pretty short on that scale.
And then women in general, they just don't get enough protein.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh my God,
especially
absolutely.
in our experience.
Yeah.
Right? So
yes.
That's why oftentimes we even set protein goals pretty low for women, because they're so far from that what we ideally want them to take in. We need them to reach an achievable goal.
Because even from that conservative suggestion, just to get them to a baseline, and already from there, if we're talking about like coming from a body composition standpoint, and then all of a sudden everything just starts to feel better. I think emotionally we start to feel better. You want to move more. Everything starts to feel better. And at the end of the day, if we feel good, whether we're in our clothes or out of our clothes, as a male or a female, I think that in itself already gives you more kind of like gusto. Like we already feel like, let's do this, let's take this class, let's push the envelope, let's put a little bit more weight on the barbell, let's take that extra walk today, let's get outside in the sun, like whatever. You push yourselves, like, you feel, I don't know, in a good way, like a little bit more aggressive in a good way. We need that jolt sometimes. It gives us that drive, right? At the end of the day, yeah, emotional, like that emotional kind of kick in the booty.
Absolutely.
So I think we kind of went over everything, but at the end of the day, you should be getting that 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day, every single day. And again, the research, there's this little like minimal accentuation of benefit post-workout. But at the end of the day, whether you put it in your coffee in the morning, have it in I don't know, your pre-workout, take it post-workout, before you go to bed, whatever, the benefits are there, not only from a cognitive standpoint, to like a performance standpoint, to a bone mineral density standpoint, to TBI, like post-traumatic mood. Oh my gosh, mood. It's showing huge benefits in mood. And again, that's cognitive. Like all of that is, if we feel good in our mind, most of the time we feel good in our body. I mean, we could just keep going on and on, but I mean, the post-surgery, postpartum, antidepressive, like again, hydration in the tissue. Our bodies move better when we're hydrated. Usually our electrolyte balance is much more appropriate to successful day, like just even your brain feeling clearer thinking, being able to get things done. I feel like now I'm reiterating, but
You're good.
Go ahead. You just keep.
No, I mean, even if you want to talk about sports performance or even full contact or contact sports in general, it's all the more reason that you should be taking creatine, right?
Oh my God,
for the cognitive functions. And then obviously anything that's contact, or most sports in general, with the exception of something like that's long distance, right? Like long distance running, you want, if you want to be a better athlete, you have to supplement with creatine. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's in order to make better decisions, right? Well, first of all, even going back to decision making, you're not going to make great decisions on the field when you're always tired, right? And if you're always tired, you're not putting out enough energy or producing enough energy, especially in the ATP sense. But without creatine, you won't be recovering and producing it more often, more frequently, right? So it all just always boils down to that you should be taking it, right? So fuck the bloating thing. That's a myth. It's extracellular water. We've said that numerous times, right? It's water that's in the cell and
within the cell. Yep. It allows it makes you look fuller. I mean, and we like that, and especially females or males too. Everybody wants to have the curves. Everybody wants to have the definition. When we're not hydrated or we're not eating the foods that help to pull the creatine monohydrate into the cells and and into the brain and everything, which is carbohydrates. We look flat.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says, nobody wants to look flat in or out of their clothes. When we look flat, muscles don't have definition. They are not striated. Even when we're in our fuller phases of our lifting careers, or maybe if we're trying to, like for guys and even for females too, because I'm currently in a little bit of a bulking phase myself, as you're cutting, we want to be able to look fuller. If that's not happening and we're not supplying ourselves with the appropriate supplementation and foods to help reinforce that, then we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Absolutely.
Right? So regardless of what phase of lifting you're in, or of what phase you're in your strength training regimen or whatever, and even as athletes, carbohydrates will help to kind of pull creatine into the system, because that's what they do, basically, without getting too scientific. No carbohydrates in the system, no energy. No creatine, no energy. ATP, creatine, ATP, energy system, frontal cortex, memory, cognition, making decisions, mood, like all that stuff is so, so important. And we need to be fast twitch. We need to be able to make decisions on the fly as an athlete, even as adults too. High stress work, whatever the case, like coaching, whatever, like we need teachers, like you need to be able to make decisions on the fly. Behind a wheel in a car, drivers, like we need to be able to make decisions on the fly, you know? At the end of the day, we need to stay sharp, and creatine definitely helps you do that.
Yep. Especially something as fast twitch that I'm sure some parents can relate to today. When your spoiled 12-year-old drops their brand new Stanley Cup, you want to be able to react fast enough to catch it before it hits the ground.
That's
right?
true.
You're not trying to dent a $50 cup, right? So,
exactly.
Or however the fuck much they cost now. So, no, I think that was great. And I feel like we're going to keep revisiting this topic, because no matter what is studied and no matter what the results of any study of creatine is and whatever is published on it, these myths about it seem to never go away. So we can't stress enough how important it is that you all take it, especially if you want to become a much better version of yourself.
You want to feel good in and out of your clothes. You want to have a great mood. You want to be able to react really quickly on the fly, no matter what age you are. And especially as we get older, the reaction time does diminish because, I hate to say it, people don't take care of themselves. People don't do the things that they need to do to maintain that reaction time. Yeah, so it's supplementation, it's the type of training that you're doing, it's the dosage of training that you're doing, how many days per week. Females, bone mineral density, muscle mass. The more muscle you have, the stronger your bones are. We can't stress this enough either. Athletes, not only to be reactive, to be able to be not just, again, reactive, explosive on the field, to have energy for what you're doing. I mean, endurance athletes too. It's not just for the weightlifters. It's not just for the shooters, shoot out there in wrestling or, sprint to one end of the field, 10 yards, whatever, football. It's for the endurance type athletes too. So the people who are running the half marathons, running the marathons, these ultra marathoners, these iron men and women, we need it for endurance too. It's about energy. It's about supplied energy.
Awesome. So, long and short, if you're not taking creatine, start taking creatine monohydrate. Right? We cannot stress that enough. Anything else to add?
No, that's it. Creatine, hydrate. Be hydrated.
Yes. I love when you broke down carbohydrates. Hydrate is in carbs.
Yeah, that's exactly what carbohydrates do. And we talk about those things, fruits and vegetables, just them in themselves, but make sure you're getting your creatine in with that. That's what keeps your brain functioning properly. Oh my gosh.
So that's all we have for you this week on the Overdrive AF podcast. Tune in next week for another episode. And we are out. We'll catch you next time. Peace.